Thank you. So I have been looking through the participant list to be sure that I've got everybody who is presenting today. If I didn't reach out to you when we call on you, just let us know if you need to share the screen and Nancy will hook you up. Otherwise, it's also totally fine to just talk about your practice. We have quite a number of people who are able to join us and participate today, so I'm really excited to give that time to them to be able to share. So I'm just going to give you a little bit about the program, a little overview, and we can turn it over to our speakers. So this is an annual award program. We're actually in our 8th year. It seems to have gone by very quickly. But this is a program where we collect and share and showcase the online best practices and strategies, programs, activities from our exemplary community of SUNY Online practitioners. We open all entries for peer review, and that's our voting process. Folks can read through the entries and rate them using a star system and provide commentary if they choose to. The highest overall ratings are awarded for 2nd and 3rd place, respectively. And then all of our entries are included in our SUNY Effective Online Practices repository. The entries are also encouraged to be submitted for consideration for Topper, which is a teaching online pedagogical repository. It is an international repository, and I'll be talking more about that in just a minute. So our program tracks include online teaching and learning practices, online course quality practices, online student support concierge practices, online enrollment and recruitment practices, online program partnership practices, and our new program track this year is in online diversity, equity, and inclusion practices. And I'm happy to say I believe we filled almost every track this year. So that was exciting to see such a diversity of entries. So as I mentioned before, we encourage our entries to submit to Topper. This is a partnership that we have had with a number of years with the University of Central Florida. Their repository is an open resource for faculty and instructional designers. Their entries describe an online blended or teaching and learning strategy. And all entries are supported with artifacts aligned with research and supported and backed by professional literature. If you have not been to the Teaching Online Pedagogical Repository, I would encourage you to check that out, along with our repository of Effective Practice Awards. So our panelists who are joining us today represent a couple different universities. We have Buffalo State, we have University of Buffalo, we have Suffolk Community College, Erie Community College, and Alfred Ceramics. So I am going to get us started with our presentation. I believe Andrea is going to go first. Andrea Kisher is the interim chair for Social and Psychological Foundations of Education and Adult Education at Buffalo State. And Andrea submitted her practice on universal design for trauma. Andrea?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out today. I'm just going to put up a couple quick slides. So some of you I've met over the years. I've been teaching 100% online at Buffalo State for 10 years. And if you've seen any of my presentations on teaching sensitive topics or naked teaching online or journaling, you know that my first time teaching online, I was asked to write and teach a course on family violence and to teach 2 diversity courses. All of those courses were 100% online, asynchronous. And right away, having been a diversity trainer and been a trainer in violence for a very long time, I thought, how am I going to do this? So I began engaging in purposeful design for trauma topics and potentially controversial, distressing, or sensitive topics 10 years ago. And since that time, I've evolved, the literature has evolved, and this is where I am today with a concept that is really universal. So just quickly, I'm sure you know that trauma is a huge issue for SUNY students and students at every institution. 50 to 60% of adults will experience trauma in their lifetime. Post-COVID, I expect that number to be much higher. We don't have those numbers yet, but certainly we are all living a global trauma right now with a variety of impacts. My own research and other research, both quantitative and qualitative, have shown a direct connection between trauma and educational outcomes and career outcomes. That relationship, not surprisingly, is a negative relationship in that students who experience trauma often have lower educational outcomes and worse career outcomes throughout their lifetime. When you read my practice, you'll see I included a lot of research citations, and I encourage you to read all of the wonderful scholarship that's available. So universal design for trauma. The first time I started to think about trauma as an accessibility issue was probably around 2016, when I read an article on trigger warnings, and the concept of a trigger warning being an accessibility tool was brought up. It really switched a light bulb for me, turned on a light bulb, so that I really began to think about trauma history as another area where we need to be willing and able to accommodate our students so that they may be successful. As I said, I've been doing presentations on teaching sensitive topics online for quite a while. But what I learned in my 10 years teaching online is that it's not just the sensitive topics. I have found students experiencing trauma, secondary trauma, distress, in courses where I am teaching completely benign content. I have a course, for example, where you journal about your past K through 12 educational experiences. Well, I didn't think about it when I made the activity, but of course, bullying, child sexual abuse, adolescent sexual assault, neglect, all of these things are wrapped into the K through 12 experience for so many of our students. And so that is when I really switched from focusing on those sensitive topic courses to every course. That's when I realized it really needs to be universal in the course offerings, and also universal embedded within the course. So here are my steps for a universal design for trauma. First and foremost is strategic content planning. I cannot say this enough. If a survivor of trauma comes across distressing content unexpectedly, it is very likely to trigger trauma symptoms. So for example, if I'm taking a course on English literature and suddenly I come across a scene about sexual assault, if I wasn't expecting that, it is going to be extra distressing. And so the first step is really to think about the content in your course. If you are including potentially distressing content, such as sexual violence, domestic violence, suicide, war trauma, police violence, etc., I'm asking instructors, and I am personally making sure that if that content's included, it is directly related to the course learning outcomes. Adding in gratuitous trauma content is really counter to serving our students with a trauma history. And frankly, trauma content can be distressing to students who do not have a trauma history. So the first thing I do, and I ask faculty to do, is to look at all the content in their course, to make sure if potentially distressing content is included, particularly content around violence, that that content has a direct purpose in the course. And if it doesn't, then I personally remove that content, and I encourage other faculty members to do the same. The second step, of course, is trigger and content warnings. I did a very big project on this. There's lots of information. Again, around 2016, you're seeing a big debate in academia about trigger and content warnings, with some pushback that maybe it was somehow reducing the rigor of courses. It's not. A trigger warning is just a warning that tells your students content is coming that you may find distressing. It allows students to prepare in advance to fully participate in course activities. Triggers are very individual, so you cannot plan for everything. But if you are going to show a film with a violent scene of war or with a violent scene of child abuse, you're going to want to make sure your students know in advance that this content is coming so that they can prepare. From there, after I've gone through the content, I've removed anything gratuitous, I've put a trigger or a content warning on any content that I think has the potential to be universally triggering or distressing. Then I go back through and I think about where I can offer alternative readings and assignments. What's critical here is to build those into the course. Never do we want to make a trauma survivor come to an instructor to ask for an accommodation. As with all universal design, it should be built in. Just for a quick example, I teach a course on family violence. The entire course is triggering, but we read one book where there is a chapter with extremely violent content. I allow students to skip that chapter. They don't need it. It's not important. It's not linked to those outcomes. And in the final assessment for that course, I offer 5 options, a research paper on a topic of their choice. Maybe they are triggered particularly by sexual assault, but they could benefit from writing a paper on elder abuse. Maybe they'd prefer a book review or a service learning project. Building in those alternative readings and assignments helps trauma survivors have control over their learning within the course. Step 4, access to campus and community resources. I build these into Blackboard, and I really hope when we're on Brightspace that on the homepage we will have some of those mental health resources available to every single student. I do both campus and community. Many trauma survivors will not get help on campus. They will not feel comfortable accessing services where they live and go to school, so you have to offer both. Some students will love campus services, but I always offer crisis services, a 24-hour hotline, as well as those campus services. And in my first journaling assignment of the semester, in every course, students build their own self-care plan for how they will take care of themselves throughout the semester. And in my syllabus review quiz, I confirm that they know where to get those outside resources. And last, this is my personal passion project. I have written about and published on my own experiences with secondary traumatic stress. I worked in the sex offense squad of a police department before getting into higher education. And one thing we don't do enough is care about our faculty and their own health and well-being, especially when teaching trauma topics. But really, when you're interacting with any student who's struggling, that can be emotionally challenging for you as a faculty member. So really remembering we're human beings too. It isn't an ivory tower. We are on the ground, frontline workers, serving supporting our students, even if we're asynchronous. I make sure I have direct interaction with every student multiple times every week, one-on-one and in groups. And so there's an article there if you're interested. And I really appreciate you listening to this practice. These are my thoughts, and I'm sure there'll be ways to expand this. And I look forward to hearing from other folks what they do to care for students who've experienced trauma. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Andrea. We appreciate you sharing all of that really good information and just things that we need to keep in mind and be more mindful of. I put a comment in the chat. If anyone would like to do questions as we go, our presenters will be here and will be attending to the chat, and then we'll open for a Q&A at the end. I just want to be sure that we have time for everyone to share. So next up, I have Mara Huber, who is the Associate Dean for Undergraduate Research and Experiential Learning at the University at Buffalo. Mara submitted this presentation along with Christina Heath, and I do see that Mara is here, so I will turn it over to you.
Wonderful. Hello, everyone. May I share my screen? Do I have permission?
Yes, you do have permission.
Okay. So hello, everyone. My name is Mara Huber, and I'm from the University of Buffalo. And I submitted our ELN project portal with a focus on our global virtual project. So I'm going to give you a ridiculously quick tour, just so I can sort of get to the high point of what I think is, it's all exciting, but what I get the most excited about. So back in 2019, we wanted to create a comprehensive system that was really accessible and equitable. Regardless of what the students were focusing on, we wanted to make sure that all students could have a meaningful, we call it experiential learning, but applied learning opportunity. So we created a portal, and it essentially has sort of three facets to it. The first is a mechanism for generating projects. We wanted to open up the space of what could count as a project. And so to be included in our portal, it just needs three things. It needs to be mentored by someone at the university, not necessarily a faculty member, but somebody at the university. It needs to be collaborative. Erin, can you hear me okay? Needs to be collaborative, so students need to be owning and getting input, and it needs to culminate in something meaningful to whatever audience. So with that, we have sort of a mechanism for generating all sorts of wonderful projects, but we also have sort of an exchange or a market, if you will. So this is our project portal. We use just our basic CMS, tagged projects are tagged, and students can create their own, but this is just a wonderful place. We get submissions daily, so faculty and departments are really starting to sort of use this, which is exciting. But what I wanted to show you really quickly is the back end, and we do have a book chapter, which I included in our submission that goes into more detail. But we use an engagement framework that we made up. It's an acronym, and it's PEARL. So it stands for prepare, engage, and add value, reflect, and leverage. So in the world of applied learning, we all know about preparation, reflection, and engagement, but we added this notion of adding value and leveraging, which we think are really important. And then we link that to digital badges. So we use digital badges as a way to facilitate, incentivize, and assess. So lots of exciting things going on here, but we really put these together to make this really scalable, comprehensive system where any student can find a meaningful project, and then they have something to show at the end of it, and we have this robust way to assess. And all of these different facets are an opportunity to innovate. So this is really sort of a tool, or I like to say it's my playground that I get to sort of play in. So now I get to show you how we've played, or how I have played. Well, when the pandemic hits, obviously most of our projects shut down. So as you know, all the in-person stuff just stopped. And our students scattered to their homes all over the world, and we knew that they were going to need meaningful opportunities. So I went to my playground and started to build out our global projects, because that's sort of my thing. I had been leading study abroad to a region in Tanzania. I had lots of partners through LinkedIn and Yali. And so we started to add global partners. And this, for me, is when the magic really started. So we have, remember, PEARL. So PEARL stands for prepare, engage, add value, reflect, leverage. Well, for preparation, we started having the students explore the UN Sustainable Development Goals as a way to sort of contextualize the work that was happening. And we started to add these portfolios of global NGOs that were doing the work of the SDGs. And so we have students browsing, learning about different regions, learning about work, choosing an NGO, and then really engaging in customized projects around capacity building. And we're able to use our system to assess and do all these wonderful things. And it has been extraordinary. Our system is co-curricular, but it integrates with courses. So we are able to work with faculty to integrate PEARL into syllabi. We're able to work with departments for their majors and internships. The students are able to get credit through their departments. And so we have really been experimenting and seeing quite extraordinary results for the students, for our institution, and for our partners. And we're trying to keep up with our success. We have more partners right now than we have students. And so what that tells me is that there's just an incredible interest on behalf of our partners to engage with our students. This is resonating with our students, but I feel really compelled to spread the word and to try to build on this, because it is so powerful in, at a time when many institutions and systems are pulling back with regard to global engagement. I think we need to go further. And if we have these scalable solutions that are aligned with our goals and they're aligned with our institutional priorities, and yet they're transformational for students and our partners, we need to find a way to expand. So that's why I was so excited to share. I don't know if you have seen our submission, but it was very, very heartwarming to see all the reviews from our global partners, from our students, from our faculty. And so it's been wonderful, and I appreciate your attention. So thank you.
Thank you, Mara. Yeah, it's great to also read the reviews and the comments to see what people's experience has been with this program. And so that was really nice. There are a lot of really sweet testimonials there. So thank you again for sharing today. Next up, we have Carrie Carlson along with Joshua Wolfson, both from SUNY Suffolk. Carrie is an associate professor of library services and Joshua is an associate professor of physical education. And I will put their entry in the chat. Turn it over to you, Carrie.
Okay, great. I think Josh is going to start.
Yeah, we were actually discussing who was going to start us off, and I drew the short straw. But thank you for having us today. We're excited to be here. So our I guess presentations on using adaptive release to foster flexibility for online students while maintaining rigor. One of the challenges that we face, especially at a community college, is trying to find ways to accurately assess students, maintaining academic standards and rigor, but also being mindful of a lot of the different circumstances that everyone is under. And there's a lot of pedagogical theories out there, whether it's standards-based assessment, competency-based assessments, or even effort-based assessments. And what we really like about this idea and this type of pedagogical model is it really considers a lot of those different areas and influences into the curriculum. So essentially what this does, and we actually run it in different ways. The original idea was that you set your course up where you have very specific timeframes and due dates for work, and students can go forward as fast as they'd like, but they cannot go backwards. So the way they accelerate forward is by demonstrating proficiency in the previous work that needs to be done. So as students demonstrate a certain level of proficiency that the faculty or professor would determine whether it's 70%, 80%, we went with the C average at 70%. once they meet that criteria, it automatically opens up the next module. And the reason this is significant is because it allows students to maintain momentum and workflow. A lot of times students will complete work early in the week and they won't have access to the work later on going forward. And so now they're just sitting around waiting for work to do. And I kind of came up, well, we both came up with this idea, but we talk about it. There are times, and it's not that we want more grading per se, but there are times where we're sitting in our office like, oh, I wish I had some work to grade because I'm tired of just getting everything submitted Friday night when it's all due. And now Monday I'm slammed with 1,000 assignments. So what this does is it incentivizes students to get work in early so that we get a more of a steady stream of work on our end. And then as we grade it, the students are getting feedback early in the week. And then if they're meeting that criteria, it automatically unlocks the next module for them, whether it's next week, next 2 weeks, whenever it is, and they can progress forward. And the reason this works for us is because our objectives are not time-based criteria, they're proficiency-based. So if it takes someone 3 weeks to master content versus 1 week, time is irrelevant to the mastery of the content or proficiency is demonstrated within the content. So I actually have students who have actually completed the courses, the entire course for some of my classes already, not many, but a couple. And the reason that's significant, and some people may push back on that, well, we offer winter session classes in 3.5, 4 weeks, and the workload doesn't change there. So why is it out of the realm of a possibility and to assume that they can't also do that during a regular semester? So it creates a tremendous amount of opportunities for students because now those students can plan accordingly for other responsibilities they have in their lives as well. But keep in mind, the rigor doesn't change. The standards are identical and it's effort-based because, at least the way we run it, we allow unlimited submissions up until the due date. So if a student uploads work early, we grade work as it comes in, we leave feedback. If they want to make adjustments and corrections, they can resubmit it. And as work comes in, we just keep regrading it. So there's that effort-based standard built in, but once again, it's also maintaining rigor and also accounting for content and proficiency standards built into the model.
Yeah, and even just this semester, I also open up my course about a week before the semester actually starts so that students can get in there and look around and figure out and then ask me any questions they may have. And I had a student that immediately took off running and, you know, got ahead in the first week and a half. It was up to what would have been module 4 or week 4. And then you could tell her other work started to pile up. So she pulled back a little bit. We gave her some time to kind of regroup, got some other stuff done, and then she jumped back in and was still on time with everything, but it lowered the stress level. And so many of the students that I have are full-time working parents. So by giving them this kind of flexibility, it really empowers them to take charge of their education and figure out whether they need to go, whether they want to go faster. And it doesn't force them that, okay, since you did module 1 now you have to move on to module 2. Well, if I got module 1 in early, it just buys me a little bit more time for module 2 actually, or you get mod 2 done and now you have more time for mod 3. And if you get hit at midterms and then you're like, oh my gosh, I have all this stuff I need to do. If you've gone ahead, you can actually then just take a break and catch back up again. So it really provides them with just so much opportunity to empower themselves, it encourages them to look at the semester as a whole, to take, you know, the syllabus and really not just ours, but all of them and get their work, you know, kind of planned out so they can move forward, they can slow down. It's just that we do have due dates and we have requirements. And if they choose to work on that schedule, then they don't get the benefit of that resubmission all the time. Because once the due date is passed, then everybody's moving on. The modules automatically open up for everyone based on a date. So there are many different layers to our adaptive release. It's the proficiency, but it also has to be date governed as well, because we do have to move the syllabus along, right? They can't be in the class. It's not an unending class. It has to be an end. And we paired up to do this because we wanted to show how 2 exceptionally different departments could really put this into good practice. And we're seeing such great results from our students. I got, you know, feedback from a student just this morning that said how grateful she was that she could resubmit it because she didn't actually get all the things that I was saying. And so she went off in one direction and I was able to just, you know, kind of grade it, give her some feedback, and she went and redid the assignment and got full credit for it just based on those little tweaks, rather than giving the feedback after it's due and now they're trying to make up and do better on the next assignment. We're going to give them that opportunity to really learn what they need to learn during that time.
Yeah, it provides a more proactive approach than reactive, where students can be ahead of the curve, getting information right away. And it's not through email where we're getting bombarded with assignments. It's organized within the courses and the content folders that those students are in. So it's from a course management perspective, it's much more easier to manage than if we were just getting bombarded with emails from students. Hey, can you look at this? What do you think of that? So this model does a lot from a course management perspective on our end, in addition to all the benefits it provides students. And, I met with a student yesterday. She's going on vacation in 2 weeks. She knows she's going on vacation. So she's getting all that work in early because she has that opportunity. So a lot of time as faculty and as pedagogues, we're talking about, well, students need to time manage and have self-regulatory skills. But then we don't give, and I'm not trying to overgeneralize, but in a lot of cases, how many courses are providing those types of opportunities for students to have good time management and self-regulatory skills if the timeframes are totally locked in and students have no flexibility. But if students have the ability to look ahead, plan ahead, and then arrange their schedules accordingly, now the flexibility is built in and they have a chance to be more successful. The one thing, and this is from my end at least, I'm very strict with my deadlines. I do not take work late. It's not like -5, -10, but I'll take it early as you can get it in and as many times before the due date. But once that due date hits, whatever's there is there. So I understand that it may be a bit aggressive on the due date side of things, but I try to compensate for that by offering, and well, I say I mean,
yeah. we diverge
the
a little.
model, yeah.
We diverge a little on this one.
The model can allow for compensation on the front end of it by allowing those unlimited submissions and flexibility built into it.
Right, and I use it where I am a little bit more flexible on the due dates. I do allow them to hand it in after the due date, but I will not, they can only get to hand it in once. There's no sort of this regrading and resubmissions. It's just whatever you've handed in, then we're done. The other nice thing about this is, we're all moving to D2L Brightspace, well, maybe not all of us, but many of us. And there are similar features in both Canvas and D2L Brightspace to be able to continue this forward or to learn about it and work with it. So we'll be retooling that for the shift as well.
Yeah, and this is more of like an overarching model, but you can see we operate differently within the context of that model. So whether you're taking work late or not, or opening it up based on certain grading criteria, there's a tremendous amount of flexibility that we as course administrators and faculty have when developing these course policies. But the main concept of it is really student-centered and student-focused in that we're really trying to give our students every opportunity to be as successful as possible while maintaining rigor, but it also incorporates effort-based assessment in there by creating those opportunities for students who want to take advantage of it.
I don't know if there are any questions for us. We weren't going to share a screen.
I saw some stuff in the chat. I didn't get to read the chat, but I saw a few things happening in the chat.
There are some in the chat, and if you can do them quickly, that'd be great. Otherwise, feel free to elaborate in the chat. So one is, how do you work in interactivity when students are at different points in the course? And also, are there mechanisms that you have in place to help students catch up?
Sure. So the one potential issue that comes up, especially if you're using like a discussion board, where students post on a discussion board and then other students have to comment. I've done this in the past, and I don't want the discussion board to hold up students. So what I do is when I grade things, if we get to a point where there's a discussion board and a student posts in the discussion board, I can still unlock future work for that student who's posted, and then they just have to circle back to the discussion board when other students catch up to the discussion board in the class. I'm not going to hold one student up because other students are not keeping up with their pace. So you can also still manually go in and override future modules for based on membership criteria. So if a student reaches out to me, it's like, hey, I want to move forward. I've done all the work. I just can't because I'm waiting for people to respond. You can override some of that through membership criteria. So there are ways around it. And once again, it just depends on how you decide to run your course. But the discussion board is an easy example of where timing could potentially be a barrier. You just have to make sure those students circle back.
Yeah, that's well outlined in my syllabus, that if they do choose to go ahead, so they're the only one that's posted on a particular discussion board, in order, because I grade my discussion boards, in order to get full credit for it, they do need to circle back to that week and post a response to their classmates.
Yeah. So we're at the community college level. So, predominantly freshman and sophomore, first and second year students for us. So it's mostly going to be 1 and 200 level courses. Do you think it might cause confusion on the part of students to have different policies for courses? Just asking. Yeah, but I don't know if that's specific to Suffolk or this modality. I think every professor is providing their own course policies in general. So I think we need to just delineate between college policies and course policies. So could it cause confusion? Sure, but as long as you're onboarding your students properly and making sure you're communicating your specific course policies as clearly and accurately as possible, and then being responsive when students get jammed up with questions, I think a lot of that could be mitigated. In my experience, they don't consistently circle back. Any incentives to get them to circle back? Yeah, I mean, they're grades, right?
Grades, yeah. I put right in the feedback, I will upgrade, update your grade when you respond to a fellow classmate or 2 or 3, whatever the requirement is for that particular discussion board. And they have just about consistently gone back in and taken care of it.
And you can also send out announcements. I send out video and text announcements, usually once or twice a week, to all of my fully online or just any of my distance education courses. And I always take notes as I'm going through work of things I need to touch up on when I'm providing announcements. So I'll say, hey, by the way, don't forget to circle back to any work that you may need to circle back to.
Thank you so much. I am going to pull up my slides to move us on. I do appreciate, in addition to the flexibility, the opportunities for students to receive feedback, I think is really critical. And we want them to be better writers. We want them to be better at what they're working on and at their proficiency level, right? So giving them those chances to do that and to continuously improve is a really kind of a key piece of your model. So thank you for sharing. Next up, we have Jewel De La Rosa from SUNY Erie Community College, and Jewel is a department chair and college librarian. I'll turn it over to you, Jewel.
Can you hear me okay? I had some audio issues in my last meeting.
Can.
Okay, good.
Perfect.
I am no longer the department chair. Thank goodness. But I am currently a senior college librarian. And unfortunately, my colleague Jackie Coffey Scott couldn't make it today. She's not in today, so I'll be presenting. And I'll try to keep it brief because I know there are a few presenters that come in after me. Also, I'm very used to presenting to groups of librarians, so this is a little bit different. I'm glad to see there are other librarians on here, but I'm going to give a little bit of background of what I submitted. So here at SUNY Erie, we created an embedded librarian program roughly around 7-8 years ago. And this embedded librarian program basically assigns a librarian to a research focused course. So the librarian is added to the Blackboard course. We assist students throughout the semester, collaborating with faculty to provide instruction, provide relevant resources, tutorials right within Blackboard, participate in discussion forums with students, and really engage and give a personal face to the library, to students who are taking their courses online or to courses that have a seated section but have the Blackboard component that we can really support those students. This really is a great program that we initiated back, I think it was 2014, as I said. It really helps to encourage students to utilize library resources, provides better outcomes in their use of scholarly resources. So this started that long ago. I was the first librarian that started this program. Started with just me and one willing English faculty member willing to take on this project. And it has really grown since then. In the last full semester prior to the pandemic, in the fall of 2019, we had roughly 25 courses that were embedded. And we're a 3-campus system here at SUNY Erie, so it was 25 courses across those 3 campuses. Once we transitioned to fully remote in spring of 2020, that number doubled to 52. By the following semester in fall of 2020, we were up to 84 courses. So to go from 26 to 84 within 1 calendar year was a huge jump. It did allow us to remain relevant and vital during that transition to remote learning. So librarians were able to continue to work and provide services remotely because we had this stable embedded program. However, it created several challenges because our workforce did not double or quadruple during that time period. And how do we create these effective resources? How do we grow to have that much substantial growth over 1 year and really be able to provide this in a more effective way? particularly because we had to bring on board librarians who had never participated in this program before. They were not used to the Blackboard environment. They were not used to teaching in Blackboard or being embedded. And so how do we really provide effective resources for them as a training resource and also be able to scale up our program to the level it had to be scaled up? And so we really got together and thought about that. And what we decided to do was build a repository in Blackboard. We created a shell course in Blackboard as a repository to house all of our tutorials, things that we used to have spread out on YouTube or on our library website, or maybe an individual librarian had a handout or a Pathfinder that they created. We pooled all of these together in a repository in a really easy to navigate format in order to be able to sustain this amount of growth. And so we targeted the librarians who were embedded in several courses to plug in their content into this outline. So we have it outlined by department and by course from there. And we have it's kind of plug and play so that if you've never been embedded, you can go into the EN 100 course within this Blackboard shell and copy as much of that content into your course as you want. And it really gives you a jumping off point from there to customize it for yourself, and you're not recreating the wheel every time we're being added. It has grown so much that right now I'm embedded in 13 classes. Several of us are embedded in over 10. And if we did not have this repository of resources, it would be much more labor intensive to do this each semester. So it's really been able, to allow us to sustain it, keep that collaboration going and grow it in a way that's been necessary over the last few years. I was going to show it and everything. I know we're already at 1:42, so I'll leave it at that. If there's anyone in the future that wants more information on it, if you have an embedded program at your campus, or you're interested in it, or you're interested in what I've done with the repository, what we've worked on, feel free to reach out to me, and I'd love to be able to share it.
Thank you so much, Jewel. I did put the link to the YouTube that gives the overview, but feel free to share any additional links that you might have in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
I saw Fabio's hand raised, so I just want to give you a moment.
Hi, Jewel. Fellow librarian here, so I just want to say great work you're doing with that. I'm a huge fan of embedding librarians into any course. Here at Suffolk, we've sort of been pushing for that. We've had pushback from everything from the word embedded to just getting faculty, or librarians rather, to enter a faculty's classroom. The benefits are there, we've all seen them, but again, with the pushback, have you done anything, or what have you done to try and convince faculty to accept this? Because it is very much needed. And I teach history, and I embedded myself or another librarian into my own history course just to prove the benefits of this, and it was a success, and still the turnout is low.
Yes, there was a great deal of pushback. As I said, I started this back in 2014. So it took from then until now for it to really grow to the point that it has. There was initial pushback and hesitancy on the faculty's part because they were afraid of what access the librarians would have to their course. That went through, I worked with the distance learning department, and we approached and did a presentation to the College Senate and had really clear defined roles for what access the librarian would have. So we have a very clearly defined role in Blackboard as an embedded librarian. And so I think that in and of itself helped to ease some of those fears that faculty had. We don't have access to grading. We don't have access to sensitive materials such as that. So having a really clearly defined goal and a clearly defined focus of what the role the embedded librarian is playing has really helped a lot. But it certainly took multiple semesters, multiple years, and just getting any and every available faculty member that was willing to try it. What has been really great though is that once we have a faculty member, once we have a department hooked, we don't lose them. And that's why the department this has grown so much, because we have very few, if any, faculty members that have asked for an embedded librarian that have then not asked for it every semester after that. So once you have people engaged in it, you tend to keep them, because I think it really adds a great value to the courses. But you reach out to me if you want any more information, because I went through it, and I can probably share some more information.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you both. Thank you for your question, Fabio. Next up, we have Dan Napolitano. Dan is from Alfred University College of Ceramics and is the Associate Dean of the School of Art and Design. Dan, I'm going to post your entry into the chat, and I'll turn it over to you to share.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to my colleagues for sharing their ideas. Our idea was submitted in, I think we were in the collaborative statewide category, or maybe we were in the diversity one, I can't remember. But it's just like the diversity that we just saw in all those presentations. Ours is a little outside of the ordinary, and I'm going to share the screen real quick. And this program came out of the a diversity equity program called the Art Force 5. And the Art Force 5 is a program that uses community-based art. This is all pre-online. I'm going to get to the online part really quick. But we do community-based art. We go out, we serve communities. And in 2018 and 2019, we received a PIF, a Performance Improvement Fund grant from SUNY. And we were fortunate enough to visit 30 different SUNY schools between 2018 and 2019 and create internships for SUNY students on Governor's Island in New York City. So it was great. I'm going to show a couple of just images of some of our different projects, but if you can see all of this, what I want to show first, I'm going to play this. And can you hear the sound?
I think it's very low. Is it music?
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk over it.
Okay.
I'm going to actually turn it down a little bit. So what you can see here, you can hear my voice, okay? So this was an idea to celebrate Women's History Month with the enthusiasm of professional sports. And we created this program at a Buffalo Bills parking lot where we made jerseys for Susan B. Anthony, and we had permission from the Buffalo Bills. And we went and kind of did this football and feminist type of program where we talked to fans and we talked about women's empowerment. And it was a nice little program. I'm going to stop my share there just as that's going on. And what that program ended up doing for us is it kind of cultivated this idea of going rogue into football stadiums and creating artwork for these stadiums. And we would go into parking lots without permission, and we would make art. And the NFL took notice, a little bit more of cease and desist sometimes, but they took notice. And we kept kind of plugging away saying, hey, like this would be a great thing for you to feature. And they weren't interested. They weren't interested in talking about domestic violence and gender. And we ended up kind of thinking that this wasn't going to go anywhere. But then COVID struck. And when COVID happened and they delayed their draft and a bunch of content was gone, I got a call back and it said, hey, like, what were you doing again with this women's empowerment draft? So the very first women's empowerment draft, I'm going to go back to my share screen and give you like just a little glimpse right here. And again, I'm just going to play things silently and explain it a little bit to you. And I'll try to get the sound for a video in the future. But for this video, I'm just going to play in the background. But this is where we went online. We went online with over 31 different college students from 31 different cities throughout the US. We paired it up with different NFL cities and an icon from each city. So you can see like the football stadiums, and this is the Art Force 5 program that we have. And there were tons of SUNY students, but also there were students from Gonzaga and students from California and University of Arizona, and all these different students would pay tribute by wearing this football. You can see people spraying Lysol on their gifts that came in the mail. And they would promote these icons, and they tell a little history about them. So this program was born in 2020 during the height of the pandemic, and it was featured on the NFL. And when we start talking about issues of equity and justice, we got a lot of hate. We got a lot of hate from male fans. There were actually male fans who thought that the Buffalo Bills were going to draft Susan B. Anthony for some reason. There was everything from like people saying that it was liberal agenda and that it was, that the NFL should just stick to football, but it also had a lot of positive reviews. And it really talks about, the sensitive subject of professional sports and domestic violence, and opening up a conversation about gender equity. From there, I'm going to show, this is the part where, let me give it a second. I'm going to show you what we created with the NFL. I'm going to close that on up. And so with the Art Force 5 program, we ended up having the second year where it was an entirely SUNY program. And the program would feature 31 students from 31 different SUNY schools. And I want to make sure that I want to make sure that I can share my video And I'm going to just play this one. Let's see here. So this video with the all the SUNY students is right here. Let's see here. No, excuse me 1 second while I find it for us. So the WeDraft program. Oops, I'm not going to do that. The WeDraft program. This is this current year, but you can see all the different icons in the card. And we make trading cards and we have football jerseys, but it's all conducted completely online. So we have, this is the first year that we did it. Here's the second year. Excuse me while I just find, some reason I'm not finding this one. So I'm gonna go back to our YouTube channel right here. This is all SUNY students. Yes. Any volume? You can't hear it still?
Very, very low, but yeah, we're following.
And you can see the campuses in the background. So I'm going to stop there so you get a little bit of a sense of it, but it is a collaborative effort. This year, so today is February 28th. Tomorrow is Women's History Month. So we just launched on our website as well as on our social media. We have about 25 SUNY partners. We have a couple privates, a couple CUNYs. And the big difference that what we're doing this year is we are reaching into K through 12 schools. We have 29 K through 12 schools that are named after women, and we're helping them celebrate their namesake. So the jersey I have right here is Lady Deborah Moody, who was the first woman to found a town in North America, in Brooklyn, and there's a school named after her, and their students will get those shirts. And it's really building spirit, but this is all being done, the communication between the 31 schools and the 25 colleges is all being done via Zoom. It's all being recorded via Zoom, and it will be like nothing but social media education and sound clips and little B-roll footage being shared throughout the month of March. And then the other two schools, I mentioned 29 out of the 31 schools are named after women. We had two schools that we said we want to leave room for representation of identities that haven't been represented. So Salamanca High School in partnership with Jamestown Community College is representing an Indigenous icon, and will be picking somebody from their community, because even though sadly Indigenous slurs are used for high school nicknames, we don't have any school named after an Indigenous woman. And then another school, interestingly enough, it is in Jamestown, wanted to represent a trans icon, and there's no high school in New York named after a trans icon. So the jersey you can see in the back is Marsha P. Johnson. Of the 4,500 schools, public and charter in New York State, there are about 900 that are named for men, and about 185 that are named for women. So we've done 29 this year. We might continue it in New York next year with more SUNY partners, or we may go like on a national scale and go back to like different cities throughout the country. So that is my, that's my online education.
Thank you so much, Dan, for sharing that. There are a lot of great links on the site. I put their website in the chat along with their YouTube channel. So I would encourage you to go and check out some of the really terrific videos there. And what a fun project for the students too, to be able to really engage in that, you know, and get that that experience of working with those other organizations. Yeah, you do anything related to sports, and somebody's going to get you're going to get their attention, right?
Yeah.
All right, great. Well, we are at the point in our session where we get to confer some awards. So let's take a look at the voting and how things panned out. Just as a side note, I put a link to the repository in the chat. You just type 2022 in the year field and you'll get all of the 8 entries that were submitted this year. And you'll be able to read more information about those. It also has contact information for each of the people who submitted. So if you want to reach out and contact any of them who shared today or anyone else who wasn't able to be with us, please do so. I'm sure that they would welcome your questions. Right, so as I mentioned at the beginning, this process is through peer voting. And so we open entries and allow folks to comment and rate those entries. Those ratings also carry a score. So 5 stars is 5 points, 4 stars is 4 points, and so on. We had a total of 250 votes, which actually garnered 1,245 points across all of the 8 entries. So when you see point values, that's where that came from. And that's how they're rated. So we had an interesting thing happen here, which is why we actually have an honorary mention this year. There was a very close call between what would be, I suppose, 4th place, although we don't generally award 4th place, and 3rd place. And there were just a few points difference, and it was actually 2 votes, but those 2 votes came in after voting closed. So I wanted to make sure to give an honorable mention because Devinder Kaur from Farmingdale State College, your entry was super close. And so we wanted to kind of make sure to honor that with the point values that you accumulated. So take a look at Devinder's entry. 3rd place, Andrea, you saw Andrea earlier today. Andrea, your entry garnered 140 points, and that put Universal Design for Trauma in 3rd place. So congratulations. And please feel free to do some virtual applause with the little chat feature there. We want to make sure we give everyone some kudos. 2nd place with a total of 268 points was submitted by Mara Huber and Christina Heath on the ELN project portal and global NGO project. So congratulations. Sweeping amount of points there. And the 2022 Effective Practice Award for 1st place goes to Carrie and Josh from SUNY Suffolk for using adaptive release to foster flexibility, I should say, for online students while maintaining rigor, with almost half the points that were garnered. So excellent feedback on those entries. And what's been behind me, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place are going to be receiving their awards, and here is yours. So hand delivered virtually for you. Congratulations to everyone who participated and voted and shared today. And we're just so pleased that you are willing to share the work that you're doing and just the excellent community that you're building in doing so. We are honored to showcase your effective practices in our repository, and we encourage folks to go and look at that, as well as look at previous years. You can search the repository by keyword, by year, by campus, so forth. And also to our partnership with UCF for the Topper repository. So if we could, we would really like to have anyone who shared today and anyone who, there we go. If you don't have your camera on, if you could put it on for us, because we want to take a picture of our effective practice folks. I think Alex is going to do that. So I'm going to hide and just show the award. Awesome. Great. So thank you so much. And Alex, what are we up for next? networking later.
I just want to say how amazing all of these projects were and how impressive the work is, and how I wish everybody was here in the world to see this amazing work and these amazing projects. I just am blown away by every single one of them. So thank you all for submitting and for the work that you do. And I'm just really, I don't even know what the word is. I am in awe of you all and the work that you're doing. So I hope you were inspired by this, and that next year you will consider submitting your own amazing work, so that we can look at it and recognize it and share it. I hope that you will share these projects and others that are in the repository, and share them on your campus and with your colleagues, and consider submitting next year if you haven't done so yet. So this is just one of the amazing things that we get to do in our community, is to showcase the work of the amazing members of the community. And so I hope that you will continue to join us throughout this week to experience more amazing presentations and work, both internal to SUNY as well as external, the external presenters that we had. And if you missed Rolando's presentation earlier, the recording will be available, all the materials will be available, as will all of the sessions for this week. The next event for today, and we've tried to space them out during the days to give you, some comfortable time in between sessions, will be our instructional designers networking opportunity. And you don't have to be an instructional designer to come and join us. It's simply a way to dedicate some networking time for particular roles of people, or maybe particular topics, but anyone is welcome to any of the networking sessions that we have. And it's very informal. It's not recorded. There's no program or agenda. We're just going to hang out and talk about what we have seen today, or what's coming up during the week, or any topics that you might want to chat about with a group of very enthusiastic and like-minded people who want to network. So I hope, Erin, what time is that? I don't have that calendar up. Is it at 2? No.
3
I
o'clock.
believe
3
it's at
o'clock.
3.
Thank
3
you.
o'clock. Yep.
It's at 3. So hope to see you back here at 3 p.m. for our networking session. And again, thank you so much. Congratulations to the award winners. I just am very, very thrilled that we were able to showcase all of the sessions that we were, and a very heartfelt congratulations to the award winners.